Hey, it's Wade or Daddy Dub. I just wanted to take a second and show you guys a little bit about my brother and his family. For those of you who don't know, I've got a younger brother who is blind and his wife is blind. Quinton and Amanda have a daughter, and a lot of people are curious, with them both being blind, how they're able to take care of her. And so the things they do aren't very different from what most parents do. They've just learned to adapt and use the abilities that they do have. So we've sat down with them just to give people an insight of how they deal with things. They've been through some things that I think a lot of people are curious about, and they've been able to do some remarkable things that is pretty impressive. And so here they are telling a little bit about their story.
I had a brain tumor when I was 3 years old that ruptured. It was called a cranial pharyngioma, and it developed in the center of my brain right near the pituitary gland. So when it ruptured, it wiped out the pituitary gland as well as my optic nerves, causing blindness, of course, immediately, and then because of the pituitary gland being destroyed in the process as well, I have to take all kinds of medicines and injections to replace the hormones that would naturally produce. So, basically after a 6-hour surgery, I was in the hospital for a month recovering. The tumor was not cancerous, so that was good. But it did come back 5 years later, and they did an experimental surgery where they put a plastic bubble in the top of my skull with a tube running down to the tumor. And they would put radioactive material in there via injection to kind of manage the tumor.
Brayy, were you listening to your daddy's heart? Yeah.
What does Daddy's heart say?
Thump, thump.
So I went blind when I was 14.
I said it.
Thank you. From an allergic reaction to some medicine. Started taking the medicine on Martin Luther King Day, and by Valentine's Day I was having side effects. I was getting blurry vision, and I was having horrible headaches, and so I kept going to the doctor, and they kept thinking it was the flu. And finally I was in the hospital for a couple days, and then I got transported down to the U, and they found out that I had something called pseudotumor cerebri, and it's like a water tumor on your brain. And my brain was creating too much brain and spinal fluid, and that caused my optic nerves to pretty much, they call it commit suicide, because they are under so much pressure. And it caused permanent damage. Like I said, I've been blind since I was 14, and...
Was that pretty traumatic, being that you were getting close to driving age? And
yeah, I think I was pretty bummed that I couldn't drive, but I mean, I've learned to deal with it.
And you've also said that if you had to choose any kind of disability, you would choose blind every time, right?
Yeah, because I've met so many amazing people. I mean, my husband here, and there's so many people in my life that I've met because of it. And I mean, you can do anything without sight, but not to be able to hear, like, my daughter crying or laughing or people talking, I just think it'd be really hard to have any other disability. Quinton and I met the October, so I went blind in March, and I was 14 and he was 17. And we went to this blind activity. It was a dance, a Halloween dance, and Quinton and his friend Chris Dodds were dressed up as sumo wrestlers. They really looked pretty pathetic, but
from what you could tell, right?
yeah, they felt pretty pathetic. Anyways, so we did like this dance and pizza party thing, and Quinton was there, and then we ended up going to a haunted house after, and it really wasn't that scary, but I thought it was the scariest thing in the world, and so I kept trying to stick with him, and he just kept trying to ditch me. And And from there, we just.
Oh, I thought you may still working on ditching her.
Oh.
That's what I call it.
Sorry, I was talking to Brayy.
But then in 2006, the year I was graduating, we went to another blind activity, and it was a Christmas party, and he had just gotten a guide dog, and I was just getting ready to graduate, and I was interested in getting one when I graduated, and so we sat at the table together, and I asked him all about getting his dog and what it entailed. Things just kind of evolved from there, and then I graduated and bought a townhome. He helped me pick it out, and he was living in Logan, and so we were hanging out a lot. We dated and broke up like 4 times because he was super scared of commitment. And the last time that we broke up and then got back together, I pretty much told him if we get back together, we either get back together and make it work, or we're not getting back together. And so we got back together, and we were engaged the following October. And after we got engaged, he left on a trip to Washington, D.C., and 3 days later proceeded to still call me and tell me he wasn't sure he was making the right decision. And I had our engagement pictures scheduled for like the week he got home. And so I was going to call and cancel him. And he was like, no, don't cancel him. Let's think about this. And anyways, ended up working it out. And we were married in February of 2009 in Logan. And
And so you've been married for 9 years?
10 years.
10 years.
We just celebrated 10 years in February.
Awesome.
After we've been married for a while, we both have a huge love for children, and so we thought we'd try to have our own. But because of my tumor and everything, I didn't have the right hormones to produce sperm and so forth, so we ended up using a donor and going through the IVF process.
Watch out, Mom.
And so we met with a couple different doctors. As many of you might know, the in vitro fertilization process is really expensive. And in order for us to pay for that and be closer to the doctor, we ended up selling our townhome after having rented it out for a while. And we moved down to some friends' home in Clearfield and rented out their basement for a while. And it was quite the sacrifice we had to make to do all that, but it was well worth it. Well, we found out after all of the hormones were administered, after the transfer of embryos, we found out 10 days later we were pregnant. So
It was 3 years ago on February 26th that we found out we were pregnant.
I mean, it didn't seem real at first. It was sort of unbelievable. As time went on and as the fetus developed and Amanda's body started changing and stuff, it started to become more of a reality. And we were just super excited because we'd been trying for so long. And
Amanda, how was your pregnancy?
I had a really rough pregnancy. It was stressful. I kept having like heavy spotting, and I would just get so sad because I thought I was losing the baby, and that was my biggest fear, was, you know, losing this baby that we had poured our whole heart and soul into getting. And the first time it happened, I think I was like maybe 8 to 12 weeks pregnant. Then it happened again when I was about 27 weeks pregnant, and that time we had to leave a family trip early and go to the hospital, and they ended up keeping me for 3 or 4 days, and they thought my water had broken. Anyways, turns out that I was able to go home and just be on bed rest, and I stayed pregnant. She was due November 7th, and on September 25th, I went into the hospital because I had developed this weird like rash all over my stomach, and I was having a fever. After a bunch of tests and everything, she was always fine. She was always strong, super healthy heartbeat, always, her tests always checked out fine. My body just hated being pregnant, and so I was in the hospital for 10 days, and when I was 35 weeks, 4 days, my doctor comes running in and he is like, I've talked to the high-risk doctor, and him and myself just figure while we're ahead and while you're okay and the baby's okay, let's just get her out. So they ended up doing a C-section, and she was born about 5 weeks early, and she was absolutely perfect.
So tell us how your experience was. I know that a lot of people questioned you and, of course, doubted your abilities about becoming a parent. What kind of things did you go through? I know that your first OB that you went to.
Yeah, once they released me from the care of the fertility center, I was about 6 weeks pregnant, and I was supposed to go find my own OBGYN, and I had this humongous fear because we were both blind that I've heard these stories about if you both have a disability or you're both blind, like the state comes in and when you deliver your baby, they take your baby. And I was so scared because I knew we were capable. I mean, I have loved kids my whole life. I nannied for 7 years and for the same family, and Quinton, like, anytime we're around kids, they like just flock to him, and especially his nieces and nephews, especially Avery.
Yes.
And anyway, so I was just scared, and I had this fear that the people weren't gonna have faith in us, and that they were gonna call the state. And so I went to an OBGYN who I had been referred to, and we walked in, and she was like doing the ultrasound, telling me how far along I was and all this stuff, and I sat up after all that, and she was like, well, things look really good, and yada yada, and she's like, but we're probably gonna have to call, what was it called? Social services. And my heart just dropped, and I was like, well, why? And she was like, well, because, I don't know, don't you guys need, like, special help? And then I got real bratty, and I was like, well, like what? A special baby monitor? And she's like, well, yeah, something like that. And I was like, because the ones they sell in the store aren't okay. Like, I can hear my baby crying through the monitor. And people just can't fathom what...
And Quinton, what did she say to you? Like, well, how are you going to find the binky if it falls on the floor?
Yeah. She had no clue, obviously, how much detail I gather from my ears every second.
Well, and not to mention binky clips, and like, we use the same things that sighted people use. We don't have anything special that a sighted person doesn't use.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of strategies and methods that we've developed or learned from others to help, but we can do everything by the sense of touch and by listening. Like, one example is our girl's 2.5 now, and we can hear way before anybody else would even think to start listening that she's into stuff. We hear a little crinkle of a wrapper that she's trying to open, or we hear maybe silence because she knows that if she's loud she'll be caught. And so we pay attention to these types of details, and we've had people ask Amanda's mom at the grocery store about how we're gonna change diapers and how we're gonna dress her and how we're gonna take care of her and stuff. And I think they think if you have no sight that you have no ability whatsoever, because people are so dependent on their vision, so they just can't fathom doing it themselves, so they don't understand how anyone else could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But
We do it
Brayley's
just like
super
anybody
healthy.
else.
You know, there's times that we'll ask people if there's like a weird rash or anything on Brayley's body or anything like that. We'll ask someone to identify, like, if it's red or, you know.
That's what's so awesome about FaceTime and Google Hangouts, is that if you need that kind of help, it's so readily available to you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And people can't, like, I'm not great with hair, but I can do Brayley's hair. I did her hair today, and
Tell us about how you organize her clothes and how you wash her clothes and keep the outfits together, because little girls always have matching outfits. And
so when I go shopping for clothes, I don't just buy a shirt and then think, oh, I'll just find something at home to put it with. Like, I have to buy the shirt and the pants. And then I get a safety pin and I pin it together. And then when I put it on her, I take it out of the drawer. It's all pinned together. I unpin it, put it on her. And then if I take that outfit off of her, like at night for her bath, I will take it off, pin it back together, put it in the dirty clothes. Then when I wash it, it's still pinned. And I only use white socks. I don't use colored socks. When we would make bottles, because she was formula fed, we would just use like those little pre-measured, the liquid pre-made formula.
Mm-hmm.
I just emptied those and they're 2 ounces. So if I needed a 6-ounce bottle, I just put 2 ounces of water, 2 times, and then 2 scoops of formula. And it's just little things like that that we had to do different.
I remember when you had to give her medicine. At one point, she was on some antibiotics for an ear infection or something, and I remember Quinton putting a notch in the syringe so that he could feel when it was right to the point that it needed to be for her dosage.
Yeah.
Yep, anytime we get a new prescription or Tylenol or anything like that, we always measure the syringe to 2.5 mLs or whatever the dosage is, and just put a notch in the plunger so we can measure it without having anybody's help. And we live on our own. We do all of our own laundry. We run a very clean
do all
and
our
strict
own
household. Yeah.
Cleaning. We do have our own car, and we do have a driver that we pay.
So I'm actually a technology instructor, and so I've used technology for probably 20 or so years.
You work for the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind, right?
That I do. Yep, and I teach assistive technology to all the students. And really what's driven me to do that is I realized how many doors were open to me from the technology I learned how to use, and so I wanted to turn around and help the students throughout the state recognize that if they embrace technology, especially in today's age, it's really advanced and provides them with equal access to information that their peers have. And so, we have apps and stuff that you literally point your camera at objects or text or barcodes, and it will, or mail, and it will start reading it, or it'll tell you based on the barcode what the product is. And we have all kinds of other technology throughout our home that we can talk to, like the Google Assistant and Amazon Echo and stuff, to ask for instructions and
again, Hangouts and FaceTime. I call my sister and Melissa and Avery all the time. My sister especially, I'll be like thinking, I need to figure out what we're having for dinner and I need a can of beans, and so I'll call her, and I kind of have a system but kind of not. Cans are really hard, but I'll just hold up the cans and be like, is this pinto beans? Or like, can you read what degrees I cook this pizza on? But for the most part, we either can ask our Google Home, our phones, or we both memorize lots of stuff.
Brayy, what's on your nose?
The sticker.
You put a sticker on your nose?
Yeah.
Go show Daddy.
What?
Is Daddy your favorite?
No.
Earlier today, I dropped my earring out of my ear, and it was so awesome because I was like, Brayy, come here and help Mommy. And she ran in where I was, and I said, I dropped my earring on the floor. Do you see it? And she said, yeah, and picked it up and handed it to me.
That's awesome. Didn't you tell me something about children who have parents who are blind? They can get their license at 14 years old or something?
Yep.
I mean, you guys still have a ways to go, but that'll be kind of handy.
Yeah,
Cool.
Can we adopt Avery? She could drive for us now.
Yeah.
That's cool because I've heard too that when you raise a child as a blind parent, they have to develop a lot of skills, because a lot of times kids use nonverbal skills.
Right, and she's learned to talk like crazy.
Yeah, and so her language skills are way better, just because it's kind of requested or required of
It
her.
forces her to
Right.
It's
talk.
funny, I'll test her and I'll ask her a question, and like she may nod to other people, but to me she always answers like yes or no. Like she knows, somehow she knows she has to talk to us, or she'll she'll like run up to us sometime and be like, "Mommy, feel this," and she'll,
I've
like,
even
take
seen
our-
her when you're walking and you're about to hit your face on a tree branch, and she'll forewarn you and be like, "Mom, tree."
Yeah, and she actually, when we're like out shopping and we're just letting her walk, if she's holding our hand or whatever, she actually likes to hold on to the person's arm like she's being guided too. She's a pretty special little girl. Let's get a sticker.
Okay, that. Done. Baby, like.
Okay, what's this a sticker of?
It's a tiger.
A tiger?
Yeah.
Okay, put it on your paper.
What does a tiger say?
Good job.
Yep.
What color is it?
It's
It's a zebra.
Oh, it's pink.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
That's not pink.
What's this?
It's a unicorn.
A unicorn?
Yeah, it is.
Really? Are unicorns your favorite?
Yeah.
What'd you dream about last
Let's
night?
see what it is. It's a rhinoceros, so it looks kind of like a unicorn.
Good job, here you go.
Tell me what this one is.
It's a baby monkey.
A monkey?
What does the monkey say?
She's
Good job. Oh. Should we play Ring Around the Rosies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell Daddy to come on. Hey, come here. Does anybody else want to play? Abe? Come on, you're part of this video. Good. Ring around the
Wow. She's getting your phone. Do you know how to work Daddy's phone?
Yeah.
You do?
Have it?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Good thing it has a good case on it, huh? Brayy,
Yeah.
were you naughty at gymnastics the other day?
Yeah.
You didn't do what?
What?
A big flip?
No.
Did you not participate?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't
You didn't what?
participate.
You didn't participate?
No.
You do flying angels? Woohoo! Oh, you might hit Grandma in the head. Whoa!
So right around the time Brayy was about 7 months old, I started feeling really terrible and had a lot of different things going on. And I thought it was just maybe my medication was out of whack or whatever, so I ignored it for a while. And then one day my wife and I walked over to Subway next to our home in Ogden, and on the way home I could not get my legs to move one in front of the other. It was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do, was to try and get my legs to move so we could walk up the hill and go across the street there and get back home. So I kind of thought at that point like something really was wrong, and it wasn't until a little while later that I realized that it was something pretty serious, and so I finally went in and got some blood work done. And I was sitting at work in my office, no one else was around, and they called, and it was a clinic in Ogden there, and they said, "Hey, your white blood cell count is so high, you need to get into the clinic over at Ogden Regional ASAP. We've got an appointment for you at 11:50 to see an oncologist." Called Amanda's parents and said, "Hey, something's not right. Quinton's got to go be tested, and they're going to look at his results." She was like, "Well, looks like you've got leukemia." And I didn't believe it. It wasn't until about 20 minutes later that it hit me that it was real. And I just hugged my dad for like 15 minutes because I had no idea what the outcome was going to be.
You have this brand new baby
Yeah,
and a wife, and you're the supporter.
right. And so, anyway, they figured they could treat me just with an oral chemo and like send me home and, you know, let me stay where it was most comfortable for me. But another doctor that was on call that week saw some other results coming back in and was like, no, you need to be seen by the huntsman.
His white blood cell count was over 500,000 and normal is between 4 and 12. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were
So he
telling
was
me,
like about ready to have a stroke or a heart attack, or he could have gone blind if he wasn't already blind.
Well, that was one thing he had going for him. He was already
We
blind.
kind of laughed when we heard that was a side effect.
but yeah, so they rushed me down on a Thursday night to the ER at the U, got me admitted, put a catheter in my neck, and they basically pulled my blood out for 2 hours a day and filtered it, administered oral chemo, and I was literally so weak I couldn't even sit up in bed. I was out of work for about 4 months, and it was...
And you were passing your baby around to family and friends so that Amanda could be at the hospital with you, and that was...
Yeah, we're seriously so blessed to have the support system we have. I don't know that I mentioned it previously, but I've got 5 brothers. I'm the second to the youngest. And even back to, you know, when I was growing up and stuff, they would not let me sit around. They had me out on bikes, skateboards, rollerblades, anything that had wheels or that could be kicked, hit, or punched, we were doing it. We had half pipes in our backyard. We had dirt jumps. We had, you know, rails out in the street to hit on our skateboards. We had all kinds of stuff going on, and they didn't let me sit still for 1 second. I was just as involved in all that as they were, and you know, it's a big blessing for us, and even today, because they've just been an amazing support for us, and Amanda's family too. They really kicked in and helped out, and
I remember when I had Brayy, the time you were in the hospital, it was my turn, and like my favorite part of you being in there, of course, because none of it's good except for that I got to keep her
yeah,
for a while. But I remember bringing her up there, and the minute we put her in your arms, she just like, you could tell she was like, oh, my dad, and she fell right to sleep.
yep. I
It was
remember
the
that vividly.
cutest thing ever.
She is a daddy's girl through and through. Always has been, always will be.
I was so drugged and so out of it. Like, I don't remember the doctor coming in and talking to me after the initial, you know, registration and after they got me into an actual room. I don't remember anything for a good day or two. So whenever they brought Brayy up to me and she immediately felt comforted and, you know, felt at peace being in my arms and everything, I vividly remember that. And just having her there sort of helped give me the strength I needed to fight through that experience and stuff, because I needed to be there for her, and I've felt that ever since that. I mean, it was there before, obviously, but even more now, just because these things aren't planned, and you never know what's going to happen.
What kind of curveballs
10
life's
minutes
gonna
from
throw.
now or 10 years from now. So I think we've tried to live the fullest life that we can and take advantage of having such a sweet girl and having such a great family to travel with and hang out with and just be around. It's awesome. Yeah, let's put it on. Okay. Now,
Thank you.
not too fast. I mean,
Here, got me.
How old are you?
6.
No, you're not.
You too. What's your name? Are you Amanda?
Yeah.
You are? Hi, who am I?
I really.
I am Brayy. What? Are you Brayy Williams?
No, I
Brayy what?
Oh, you are Bill, and I'm mommy.
Oh, hi. Hi, Mommy.
Did you pour it on your daddy's head?
Yeah, it's unlocked.
You did?
Yeah, it was funny.
It was
Yeah,
funny.
to you.
Did you like that?
No.
Did you like that?
So there you have it. There's a little bit of a behind the scenes look or a sneak peek into their lives of what it's like to be blind and have a child. I know a lot of people have been curious how they do it, being blind, but for them, I don't think they see it as a disability. It's just an obstacle that they've had to overcome. And so a lot of people have excuses for why they don't do certain things or whatever, but Quinton and Amanda have been an inspiration to me that, you know, you shouldn't have excuses. Just get out there and live your life regardless of what hand you've been dealt. So I think they're a great family. They're raising a great child, and I'm excited to see where their life takes them from here.